Happy holidays and welcome back to Tranquility du Jour, nourishing conversations about living a full and meaningful life with doses of tranquility. This is episode 520, and I'm your host, Kimberly Wilson, bringing you tranquility through this medium since 2005. Today, we are talking with returning guest Mindy Tsonas about her recent creation, the Be Seen Project. Hear the evolution of her creative journey, why being seen is so important, and how she's out to amplify BIPOC artists and craftivists, plus a chance to win some pretty amazing earrings. Details later. Be sure to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast app, and also check out the Tranquility du Jour podcast app for iPhones and Androids. You can find that at kimberlywilson.com/podcast. And also those of you who might be new to Tranquility du Jour, a big welcome. And you can find out more about us at kimberlywilson.com/new. A few things we have coming up. One I'm very excited about is the Tranquility du Jour annual pass. So this is something that's brand new and it gives you access to everything that's happening in 2021. That is all of our virtual offerings, from the seasonal virtual retreats and much, much more. So you can find out more about this at kimberlywilson.com/2021. Also included in this pass, which you can also do at a la carte, is a New Year's virtual retreat that's happening on January 1st from 2 to 5 p.m. We're going to get together to reflect about 2020, which has been quite a year, to dream up 2021, to do a little bit of yoga, a little bit of mindfulness, meditation, and a little creativity. So would love to have you join if you're interested and available. And if you're not free that day, but would like to join us, you can still sign up and you will, of course, get a replay so that you can retreat over and over again. Hello there, listener. One thing that I think I know about you is that you love books, just like me. And it can be tricky to find the time to read. So that's why Audible is an excellent resource. You can listen anywhere from various devices, your iPhone, your tablet, your computer, while you're waiting in line, at the doctor's office, all sorts of places. You just whip it out and you are ready to go with your entire library. And you can also pick up right where you left off. There's hundreds of thousands of titles, including this month's online book club pick, Dolly Parton Songteller, My Life in Lyrics. Would love to have you reading along with us. So you can sign up for a free 30-day trial and your first book is free with audibletrial.com/tranquility du jour. Happy reading. Now, without further ado, the lovely Mindy. She's a Korean-American adoptee, queer intersectional feminist, and modern-day bohemian who works at the juncture of creativity, identity, and social justice. She's a community builder, artist activist, and the founder of the Be Seen Project, a grassroots initiative helping to amplify and resource BIPOC artivists and craftivists. She believes in using our collective superpowers for positive social good, and her goal is to create more liberation and love in the world. A crafty dabbler, she's also a lifelong devotee to the underdog. Welcome, Mindy.
Hi, Kimberly.
I should say welcome back. I mean, how many times have you been on the show? Like 3 times, I think.
I think it's been something like that. And every time I come back, I'm just thrilled to be here.
Oh, it's a treat to have you. And, you know, I am just proud of the work that you are doing. And of course, I feel like it's constantly evolving, but it always has a thread of creativity in it. And, you know, this latest project, Be Seen Project, can you tell us a little bit about it and, and what it is and, the creation of it?
Yes. Wow. It's been kind of an interesting time, I'm sure, as it is for everybody. And this project kind of came about in this perfect sort of collision of the world that we're living in right now, of the pandemic, of having the space because my job was suddenly gone and I had time on my hands to be working and creating. And then I also, had been thinking about this project in some way for a really long time. It was one of those scribbles in my notebook from like 2015, and just simmering on the back burner, thinking about all the different ways that we work and live and the different layers of our identities and how that's seen and perceived by ourselves and others. And I always knew that I would love to sort of have a space or have a project that would create room for that identity exploration and creative exploration, but just never the opportunity, or sort of the project hadn't bloomed or wasn't ready to grow until its fullest form, until this moment of just being in a time where, you know, the world is changing, and what needs to be in the forefront has definitely shifted in my own life. And also the creative journey that I've been on, sort of this is the moment where this project was catalyzed and put into action, just really in alignment with where I was on my own personal journey and alongside just the state of the world. So the Be Seen Project is a platform. It's a resource. It's a community for Black, Indigenous artists of color who are creating work, but also using that work as activism or craftivism. So directly making things as a way to impact the human rights movement and social justice and systems of oppression. So it's been kind of an incredible moment just in my creative work to have had this project sort of spring to life during this time, and just watching it grow and watching the community sort of grow and expand has been really informative and interesting, and also a joy just to be a part of at this moment.
Yes. So, you know, what I love about this is, again, the evolution of your creative journey. So for listeners who may not be familiar with it, would you talk us through a little bit about the various evolution? Because, you know, I'm trying to think back, Mindy. I mean, I have known you, since the mid O's, like 06, 07, 08?
Right. Yeah. I mean, since way back when. I mean, I'm one of those original podcast listeners from like eons ago. And then I think we finally did connect, either voice to voice or in person or in Blogland, somewhere like that around that time. So yeah, I've known of your work for an incredibly long time.
It's amazing, you know, and you think about the various iterations that we've had within our work. And, you know, it's just been fun to watch your journey. So can you speak a little bit, you know, about your kind of creative path?
Absolutely. Yeah. So initially, I had been in the blogging scene as a creative blogger, deep in my own exploration of kind of what it meant to be creative and what it meant to share expression that was artful and inspiring. And it was sort of in that exploration that I really began flexing that bravery muscle. And I think that was like laid the foundation of all of my creative work. And in the beginning, it was just about being creative. I had founded this little community called the Wish Studio, and it was all about, you know, sharing a creative voice and leaning into identities like being an artist or being a writer or being a painter. And back in that time, when none of those things I would have defined myself as, I would have like really considered myself just someone who was dabbling or was trying to find their way. So it was through the work of the Wish Studio and building that community that I really claimed those identities in the creative realm, which allowed me to sort of peel off another layer and start exploring other aspects of identity through my creative work. And next, I was like really deep in sort of this revolution of my sexual identity and gender identity and what it meant to be in intimate relationships and how those impact our life and work. And the evolution of that piece of my journey kind of brought Wish Studio to this place of, you know, just talking about art and inspiration, and then suddenly like going deeper into what our art means and how it's connected to who we are. And once I made that connection, my work started to pivot again. And things kind of went on a new path down the avenues of exploring embodiment. And embodiment for me was sort of another word for identity, like figuring out who we are as human beings and how we take up space in the world as those people. And embodiment led me also to talk about body positivity and, sex positivity and what those different things mean to our identity. And it came to a point when I was, deep in those explorations and creating classes and creative outlets to explore those things. When my business had evolved to a community that was then called Studio Femme, I was really bumping up against being able to, explore the next layer, which was, if we're talking about identity, if we're talking about body liberation and, sex positivity and all of these aspects that were activism, which I hadn't identified at that point. But it was really also, that place of being an activist I was working in. And once I made that connection again in that leg of my journey, I was like, oh, okay. So now, in addition to just being creative, the work that I'm doing through my creativity is about identity. It's about activism. So it's really led me down this path to where I am today, where the Be Seen project is kind of a culmination of all of those things. And along the way of my creative journey, being seen has absolutely played an integral role into figuring out those identities and also helping other people explore theirs.
I love it because these pieces that it might be like, oh, how does Wish Studio and Studio Femme and, Be Seen Project, how do they all align? I love the thread that you just wove kind of through it all to take us through the journey because, of course, I've known you and interviewed you, I think, during each of these iterations.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they all are connected. I mean, I think when I look back and was thinking like, how do these fit together as a brand or like thinking of them like an entrepreneur? It's funny because, they are very much in individual different aspects of my creative work in business, but they also have very distinct connective threads, about truth, about identity, about creativity, about connection, about community. So it's definitely been a journey for sure, evolving these different projects.
And being seen, I mean, in general, I think it's like such something that is being talked about a lot more now. At least it's a phrase that I feel like I've heard a lot more now over the past couple of years. Yeah. And although, people may have been using it forever, it's just something that's really come to the forefront for me and the importance of it. And can you speak to that a little bit about why being seen, what it means and why it's so important?
Yes, absolutely. I think being seen on a personal level for me has always been about belonging and about acceptance and validation. And as a facilitator, being seen has always been a vehicle for transformation, for really embracing who we are in the context of relationship. It's one thing to sort of understand and be self-aware and do the internal work sort of on your own side of things. But in the context of other human beings, which is how we live our entire lives, being seen by others, having that other layer of vulnerability on your side, but then also of ownership, of identity and expression, is just so important. And it's also, really very much a catalyst for helping us sort of lock into those identities and see ourselves more clearly when we can be embraced by community or the people in our lives and, have those communities and those people reflect back to us who we are and what we stand for. And so context is everything. And being seen, I think, is a huge part of that.
And can you talk a little bit about some of the Be Seen initiatives that you have going on right now?
Yes. So our Be Seen initiatives are always super fun. Not only do they have an activist and creative aspect, they're always interactive. So they're a creative call to action. So they're projects set up by either different organizations or individuals based on the activism or craftivism that they're passionate about. And they've created a project that allows people to sort of join up and create in the same expression for the project. So for example, one of our most recent initiatives we just added to the site is called the Each Other Project. And it's by Marie Watt and Kanupa Hanska-Lugar, who are both Indigenous fiber artists. And they're creating this amazing 3D installation at the Denver Art Museum coming next spring, and have invited anybody to stitch a bandana with a word that's sort of related to your identity, your culture experience, your social location, and send it to them. And they're going to create a giant collaborative community structure about what it means to, break down barriers and be connected. And so it's going to be really incredible. I'm so excited to see that. So those are the kind of projects that we amplify on our site. And we'd love to just encourage people to get involved, to get making with their hands, which has, such a therapeutic quality, as I'm sure you know, Kimberly, as a creative person and as a therapist. And then also to just get involved with these activism, efforts that, in this particular case is really about, taking action and connection to, break down any barriers that we have with one another.
I love it. It's such a timely project also.
It really is. It really is. And it's so excited to see other people's point of view through their projects. So it's been a really exciting and fun way to learn about different artists' experiences that might not be similar to your own, which I think for a long time, I worked in circles and communities where a lot of the work, was, even though it was different mediums, it felt sort of similar. So what's exciting about the Be Seen Project is we have such a wide variety of artists that we feature and initiatives that we try to back. So that's been really fun to grow the community in that way.
And then you've created a zine and a podcast around it?
Yes. So as a creative person whose muse never sleeps, there's always other side projects. And one of the things that I love also about community building is finding other ways to connect with community that's off of the screen. And as so much of our lives are digital these days, I really wanted to create a point of connection that was hands-on. So the zine was just like the perfect go-to for me. I had a love for zines for many years. This is actually the second one that I've produced, but it's much less shiny than my original foray. But this one is definitely more in the spirit of the DIY zine movement of, the 1930s and beyond, where, it really was a part of the feminist activist movement. So it feels like a really perfect fit for the Be Seen Project. And it's just another avenue for us that we can tangibly create opportunity for, BIPOC artists to be a part of, and then just really create something a little sweet and special to pop into the mailbox to those who are supporting the project and interacting with the project and want to be a part of the community. So that's been really fun. And the podcast is something as well, as you know, is such a great community builder. And it really, really allows me to be able to have deeper conversations with artists about hard things like identity, like racism and marginalization, all the things that impact our work and lives so critically. And, we're able to have those conversations in a more deep and meaningful way through the podcast. So that's been really, really fun and exciting to bring to life. And just to have that platform with the purpose of having those conversations rather than having to sort of feel awkward or skirt around or not know if it's okay to talk about those things. It's been such a liberating experience for myself and all the people I've spoken to for season 1 that's launching this fall, just to have that space as permission to really have these conversations and really go for it.
And so how do you recommend people, our listeners, get involved with Be Seen Project? It seems like there's a lot of different ways that we can support.
Absolutely. Yeah. So really just diving into the community, you can follow along on Instagram at Be Seen Project. You can join up with any of our creative calls to action, and they're in many different mediums. There's, knitting, there's stitching. Like I said, there's the bandana project. So there's a bunch of different ways to get involved with your making. If you're not a maker and want to support the project, we're always looking for creative collaborations to help amplify the project, and partnerships. We have a cohort that's been awesome that you can join up on. And really what that means is we have like an awesome squad of creative people who like either will create awesome giveaways for us, or will create some kind of conversation as a platform to engage with the project. Or we could do anything that involves creativity, like making work or fun make along I've done over IG with other artists just to amplify the project. So there's really infinite number of ways to become a part of the community and to give your energy and resources to the project, even if you're not directly a maker, or if you're not directly an activist on a platform. I think that's one thing that's really great about activism, is there's so many different facets of it. And we'd love to encourage anybody to get involved in that way. And we're always looking for, great sponsorships, if that's something that, small businesses who are also indie and looking for cross promotion to work with and who are passionate about this. So yeah.
Well, one of the things too, Mindy, just like with what you're talking about, kind of with the whole activism angle, and I love this as a doorway into that. What are some additional ways that you recommend listeners like get involved as an activist? I think now it's like in particular, I think it's a very hot topic that people are learning about and reading more about and really engaged in. And not that people haven't been in the past, but I think it's really awareness is heightened. So are there any things that you would kind of recommend kind of beyond the Be Seen Project that might be a good way for people to become, an everyday sort of activist?
Yes. And I love that phrase. That's such a perfect way to sort of think about it, because, activism really at the heart of it is really just about action. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be on the front lines, holding signs and, doing those kinds of things that we think of when we think of activism. I think we often think that that's the only way, or that we only consider someone an activist if they're actually doing those kinds of things. But as you said, like everyday activism is about our choices. It's about our actions, and it's about, who we support with our choices. And the thing that's tricky is that with activism also, it's not just about what we value and what we believe. Sometimes I always get the question about, but I really do support this company or this person or whatever. And that's not necessarily activism. So ways people can actually take action are being more aware about how their choices have impact. For example, how we shop. You can support the local businesses. You can support local, BIPOC businesses. Being aware of where your money and where that energy is going, and being aware of, how we choose to where we eat, how we dine, all the different things that we do, what kind of clothes we're wearing, where our clothes come from. So awareness and making choices based on that awareness is absolutely activism. And then also I believe that taking a level of responsibility in terms of learning about history that we may not have heard of, learning about politics in our local communities, learning about other organizations that may help support the things that you do believe and value in. Those are all things that we can do to support activism as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. I always love the ideas around every day, right? It's because there's so many choices that we make every day that can allow us to become a more creative person, a more conscious person, a more mindful person, a more somebody who's more involved in activism. So thank you for those suggestions.
Yes, absolutely.
So my last question for you, Mindy, is the name of the podcast, of course, Tranquility du Jour. And how are you finding tranquility in your everyday right now? Because I know it's not easy for people.
No, it's definitely not. For me, I've realized over time, one of the biggest aspects of my being able to find tranquility is just recognizing how emotions and feelings show up in my body, and using different tools and tricks to really get those emotions and shake them loose and take care of them so that I'm not holding all these negative feelings in my body. And I think in the past, how that would show up was, I would feel my body would be cold, or I would be tight, or my stomach wouldn't be right, or I would have an ache in my neck. And it took me a long time to realize that those like somatic sensations were all about how we move through the world and the feelings that we bump up against, and that it's not necessarily bad. It's just my body was trying to tell me something. So tranquility for me has really been about learning about those things, and then learning the tools to take care of those different symptoms that pop up based on, what we're feeling, and how to really honor those feelings and process the feelings and take care of them so that I can move through those really uncomfortable embodied sensations and really feel relaxed and be relaxed and, come back to regulation a little bit. And, creativity is absolutely a huge part of that, just making things and being able to connect with people is absolutely a part of that. And I'll always be down for a really good bath.
Always. They're like, I like to equate them to a full body massage. I mean, the benefits. Yes. Yeah. It's like, yes. Oh, it's so decadent and such a treat.
It is. I feel the same. It feels just like a big warm hug that you can be in for like a half hour.
Totally. I love that. A big warm hug.
Yeah. We all need more hugs these days. I so miss hugging people.
I know. Right. And it's always weird because you walk up to people like to see a friend, for socially distanced tea. And you're like, hi, it's awkward. You're putting your arms out, but you're not sure what to do.
It is.
It's funny.
It's so awkward.
Well, thank you, Mindy, so much for being here today. And of course, for the great work that you continue to put out into the world. I'm always inspired.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. I am incredibly grateful for the way that you create space for me to share what I do, and just for your enthusiasm, and just always love that we've been connected through so many iterations of both of our work. So it's just really exciting to watch you do what you do. And yeah, just to be here again is such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. So over in the show notes, you will find links to find Mindy on her website and Instagram, and also the Be Seen Project website and Instagram. And a reminder, you can find this at kimberlywilson.com/520. Now, here is your chance to win these gorgeous, gorgeous earrings that have a value of $195. If you donate $10 to support the Be Seen Project, you will be entered to win a pair of these gorgeous, gorgeous handmade brass Leah earrings. And of course, in the rose colorway, which is my and Mindy's favorite color. If you donate $25 or more, you'll also be subscribed to the Be Seen Project zine. And the drawing will happen on the 28th of December. So please check this out. Again, there is all the information and a photo of these gorgeous earrings over in the show notes, and a link to donate. So finally, let's stay connected. I would love to have you in our TDJ Insiders Facebook group, where we do our online book club, and I like to share just regular doses of inspiration. I also do that via email through weekly love notes, so you can sign up for that at kimberlywilson.com/love notes. There's a link to my books and planner, ways to follow Tranquility du Jour on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, a link to my seasonless, vegan, locally made, eco-friendly fashion line, TDJ. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. I really, really am grateful that you invited me and my guest, Mindy, into your day. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Namaste.